She fell for a driver, who was actually the CEO of the media where she worked. The morning Layla almost quit her job was the same morning she fell in love, though she didn't know either of those things yet. She stood in the pouring rain outside the corporate headquarters of Meridian Media, her portfolio soaking through, her interview rejection letter crumpled in her fist. 3 years. 3 years she had worked as a junior content writer at the company, pouring her soul into stories that her supervisor, Marcus Webb, routinely stole and published under his own name. That morning, she had finally gathered the courage to apply for the senior editorial position, and the rejection had come back in less than an hour, not because she wasn't qualified, but because Marcus had submitted her own writing samples as his portfolio and gotten the role instead. She stood in the rain not crying, which surprised her. She was simply hollow. Empty in the way that only happens when betrayal comes from someone you once trusted completely. It was then that a sleek black car pulled up to the curb, not the flashy kind that screamed wealth, but the quiet, understated kind that whispered it. The window rolled down and the man behind the wheel looked at her the way most people look at a bird caught in a storm. Not with pity. With something closer to recognition. He told her to get in. She almost didn't. But the rain was relentless, and something in his steady brown eyes made her feel, inexplicably, safe. So she got in. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and love that finds you in the most unexpected places, please like this video, drop a comment, share it with someone who needs to hear this story, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Every story we tell is for souls like yours. His name, he told her, was Daniel. Just Daniel. He said he was a driver for the company, one of the private fleet drivers that ferried executives between meetings. He had a calm about him that felt almost architectural, like it had been built carefully over many years. He didn't ask too many questions. He just drove, and somehow, in the silence between the rain and the hum of the engine, Layla found herself talking. She told him about Marcus. About the stolen articles. About the 3 years she had given to a company that had never once looked at her as anything more than a quiet, useful shadow. Daniel listened in the way that rare people listen, not preparing his response, not glancing at his phone, but actually absorbing every word as if it mattered. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something simple, something she would replay in her mind for months afterward. He said that in his experience, the people who do the work in silence are always the ones who eventually can't be ignored. That talent, real talent, had a way of surviving systems that tried to bury it. She laughed softly at that. A driver who spoke like a philosopher. She liked him immediately. Over the following 3 weeks, their paths crossed with a frequency that felt less like coincidence and more like the universe gently insisting. Daniel would often be assigned to the building's morning drop-off route. They fell into an easy rhythm, coffee she brought for herself that she started bringing in pairs, conversations that stretched from traffic lights to dreams to the kind of silence that doesn't need to be filled. She told him about her late mother, who had been a journalist in a small coastal town and who had always believed that stories had the power to change the temperature of a room. Daniel told her about growing up watching his father work himself to exhaustion for a company that let him go with 2 weeks' notice after 22 years. He spoke about it without bitterness, which moved her more than bitterness would have. She began to realize, somewhere around the 2nd week, that she was falling. Not the dramatic, gasping kind of falling. The slow, certain kind. The kind that feels like finally standing on solid ground after years of uncertain footing. She told her best friend Priya that she had developed feelings for the company driver, and Priya looked at her with wide eyes and said, "Layla, only you." But even Priya couldn't deny that she had never seen her friend smile like that before. Then came the Thursday that changed everything. Layla had spent 2 weeks secretly compiling evidence, emails, time-stamped drafts, original files, proving that Marcus had systematically plagiarized her work. She had submitted a formal complaint to Human Resources, fully expecting it to disappear into the same institutional silence that had swallowed every other complaint before it. Instead, she was called into the executive boardroom on the 14th floor. She straightened her jacket in the elevator mirror and told herself it didn't matter what happened next. She had told the truth. That was enough. The boardroom doors opened, and sitting at the head of the long glass table, reviewing a folder that she immediately recognized as her own complaint file, was Daniel. Not in a driver's uniform. In a charcoal suit that fit him with the quiet precision of someone who had been wearing authority for years. The nameplate on the table read, Daniel Ashford, Chief Executive Officer, Meridian Media Group. The room tilted. Or perhaps she did. He looked up and his expression was not what she expected. It was not the smug satisfaction of a man who had caught someone off guard. It was something far more vulnerable, an apology living behind his eyes, waiting to be spoken. He stood. He told the room that he would speak with Ms. Layla Nasser privately first. The other board members filed out. And in the silence that followed, he told her everything. He had taken on the driver rotation 3 months ago as part of an anonymous internal review he conducted every year, a practice he had started after realizing that executives too often lost touch with the people who actually built the company from the ground. He drove. He listened. He observed. He had heard about Marcus Webb's behavior from 2 other employees before he ever met Layla. But it was her file, her actual writing, that had stopped him entirely. She was, he said, without question the most gifted writer on the editorial staff. The rejection of her application had been processed before he could intervene. He had been building the case to correct it when she filed her complaint and made the decision for him. Layla stood very still through all of this. She was not thinking about the job. She was thinking about the way he had looked at her in the rain. She was thinking about the coffee and the conversations and the way he listened like the world could wait. She was thinking that she had fallen for a man she thought was a driver and he had turned out to be the most powerful person in the building, and somehow, he was exactly who she thought he was anyway. Marcus Webb was dismissed by end of day. Layla was offered the senior editorial director position the following morning. She asked for the weekend to think about it, not because she was uncertain, but because she had learned to stop making decisions while her heart was still catching up with her mind. She took the position. Daniel asked her to dinner, properly, honestly, as himself. She said yes, not because of what he was, but because of who she had already decided he was, standing in the rain with steady eyes and a quiet kind of goodness that no title could have given him and no secret could have hidden. If this story found its way to your heart, if it reminded you that goodness doesn't always announce itself, and that the love worth having often arrives simply, quietly, without warning, please give this video a like, share it with someone who deserves a beautiful story today, and let us know in the comments. Have you ever misjudged someone only to discover they were exactly who you needed? Asterisk before this story closes, drop a single word in the comments that describes how this made you feel. Just one word. We read every single one, asterisk. Some people enter your life in the wrong costume, at exactly the right moment. The trick is being present enough to see past the uniform, the title, the storm, and recognize the soul standing quietly in the middle of it all, already holding an umbrella, already waiting, already yours.